Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Darcy on 90 Day Fiancé. I am a couples therapist. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm going to react to this. Let's see what happens.
Late last night, Tom texted, "Want to fix this rather than have a war? I hope you feel the same way." I didn't respond. I'm not quite sure what he means. This text has definitely thrown me off. In this moment, I feel not quite sure what to expect.
It's very confusing what Tom is saying because there's this picture of him with another woman. We don't know the information on that yet. And now he is coming and he wants to have this conversation. He wants to fix the relationship. But what's up with this picture? So there's just a lot of confusing communication from him. So, and Darcy's confused, which makes sense.
Recently, his messages have been very confusing and vague. And Tom has not told me about this other woman. So with all this going on, I don't know what's going to happen when I see him today.
And like I said before, my hypothesis about Tom, I have no data to know this because I would have to assess him. But with the information that the producers are giving us, there's some red flags that he suffers from a particular attachment injury regarding early childhood of when he expressed himself, he experienced something bad, either neglect or abuse or something. And so he learned that he needs to hold his cards very close to the chest and not really express himself. Another complex that could be in addition to this or instead of that is the complex around hurting other people's feelings and then being made to feel very ashamed of yourself. So there's a possibility that someone in Tom's position might have, as a child, hurt other people's feelings, like, didn't do their chores and their parents fell apart and say, "How could you do this to me?" And then as a child, you feel really shamed and abandoned because you let someone else down. And so you develop this tremendous fear about letting other people down because when you wrong someone, even in a small way, you have a lot of bad things happen to you. And so you learn to completely avoid anything that harms another person. And so if Tom really sat down, there's a possibility that and really thought about it, he might conclude, yeah, I want to break up with Darcy because I'm dating other people and all these other things. But in his face is this defense of like, do not hurt other people's feelings. But in the process of not hurting her feelings by being upfront with Darcy, he creates more hurt because it comes off as really shady and like he's cheating on her. There's a lot of speculation. I obviously don't know, but those are the hypotheses I would have about Tom that I would test out with him.
I love Tom very much. Felt very safe with him.
So I will point out that on the nightstand, she has a book called You Can Read Anyone, which I'm guessing, speculation, she's reading because she has a hard time reading Tom or she's had a hard time reading a lot of people. And she's looking for answers. There's a lot of YouTube videos actually around this. And there's a lot of pseudoscience, meaning that it comes across as scientific, but it actually isn't backed up by empirical evidence, about these notions that you can read people and, certain micro expressions and the way their eyes look when they're talking. And all of this is crap, I'm here to tell you, or at least most of it is. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, how dare you, call out. I'm not going to go into specifics. Maybe there is some data supporting some notions in what I just denigrated. But for the most part, in my experience on the internet, especially on YouTube, there is just a tremendous amount of pseudoscience being pumped into people. And this book might actually be evidence of that. Because any book that says, so the only way this book would probably be supported by science, You Can Read Anyone, is all it is the first page, it just says, you can't. There's no evidence that anyone can read anyone because there's a lot of reasons why people will deceive. There's also a lot of reasons why people deceive themselves. This notion that like Well, if I'm getting a confusing message from someone, I can like look the way their eyes are going or the words they use, and I can read them. Well, that assumes that the person communicating knows what they're doing. And take it from me, most people don't. Most people aren't that aware of why they're doing what they're doing. And so, it's just, I don't know. I can't obviously denigrate the book that she has. But now this also points toward a direction for Darcy that is not productive. What I would like to see Darcy do is go to therapy where she can have a secure attachment with a therapist, become aware of her attachment injuries, become aware of her relationship patterns, internalize a secure relationship with a therapist to feel less worthless, to understand herself better so that she cannot have this happen again. To read a book, You Can Read Anyone is probably not going to help her in the future.
Don't think he cares anymore.
My heart just breaks for Darcy. It's probably just a long string of relationships that have ended in a way that makes her feel worthless. By the way, I do have books that I will recommend. So I talk about differentiation a lot, and this book by Roberta Gilbert, Extraordinary Relationships, is a book about Bowenian theory and about differentiation that you can look at. And this book by Sue Johnson, Hold Me Tight, is a good book also that has to do with attachment and how relationships, marriages can communicate about attachment. It has to do with emotionally focused therapy, which is akin to the kinds of things that I talk about. So if you do want a book to actually help, I recommend checking these books out and seeing if they help you.
I didn't get much sleep at all last night. I don't know how today's going to go. Can't even tie your tie. Come on, get your head in the game. I'll be meeting Darcy soon. The biggest concern is that Darcy's going to get extremely emotional, upset, angry. Something I've had many a time with her, and something I don't particularly like.
So, speculation. The thing about Tom is I have to speculate wildly because avoidant people, they don't show their vulnerability, and they're also not aware of the vulnerability, so it's hard to know where this is coming from for him. So I'm really shooting in the dark here. But one hypothesis that I would test out with someone like this, if he was a client, would be to explore the possibility that he will manage his so speculation that he has this terror around hurting other people's feelings and feeling very ashamed of himself for hurting other people. He might have actually had a lot of past relationships where he has hurt other people because of his avoidant nature, which has compounded the trauma for him. And one of the ways you can avoid that I imagine his subconscious has learned, is if he provokes the other person to freak out, then he can say, well, they freaked out, so I'm walking away from someone who is actually completely unhinged, and so it's not my fault that I broke up with. I mean, look at that person. Because he says right now, I hope that I can go into this and that Darcy won't be very emotional because I don't like that. Anyone can predict that if there's any kind of difficulty in their relationship, Darcy's going to be emotional. It's also good to be emotional, meaning to cry and to have feelings. It's a normal thing, Tom. So anyone would say, Tom, you're stupid for thinking it's not going to be emotional for Darcy. Now, Tom isn't stupid, so why would he even think that it's not going to be that way? Well, because of those defenses, he might be thinking, his conscious is being like, oh, this is going to be fine, but his subconscious is thinking, undoubtedly this is going to go badly, particularly if I do a particular maneuver subconsciously. She's going to freak out. Then I'm going to leave and I'm going to be like, it wasn't my fault. I can't be blamed for breaking up because she was the one who freaked out and I left, for good reasons. And so I'm absolved from any guilt. It's a speculation. I would need to explore this with him, but I've seen that before.
Maybe there's something there to be salvaged. But then again, if I turn up and get a grilling and upset and anguished, then it's not going to be worth it anyway.
Okay, so there's an explicit statement that is kind of in line with what I was saying.
I don't want to be embroiled in an argument. I'm trying to work out the best solution possible. And I just don't want to get to a point where it's bad. It's a lovely spot she's picked. There's a view of the whole city. It's a nice day outside, and I'm nervous as hell. Yeah, she'll be here soon, and I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm extremely nervous.
So you might be wondering, okay, why is he so nervous? Or, what's that about? Total speculation. I'm guessing that it has to do with that terror of hurting other people's feelings. And he is cut off from his feelings. So he feels generally nervous, like heart racing and, hands sweating and this kind of thing. But because of his upbringing and his attachment injuries, he's not really attuned to his own emotions. And so he interprets that as nervousness, and he's like, oh, I'm really nervous. But if he was more connected to his selfhood and his emotional life, he might recognize, oh, you know what? I think I'm really scared of hurting her. And if you know that, then it helps you to manage that better and also put that aside of just like, well, but I have to hurt her. There's just no way around it. It's speculation. While I'm on the topic, as I always say, I can't diagnose from afar. Everything I'm commenting on is based on the very little data that they give us, that the producers deem to show us. These actors are, they know they're being filmed, so they're potentially putting on a show for us. Who knows? The only reason why I do these videos is not to comment on these people in a scientific way, but for you to potentially look to these people, hear my conceptualization and speculation, and think about your own life so that you can think about how to have better relationships and have more self-awareness yourself and go to therapy. Because I know a lot of you are like, well, the last therapist I went to was terrible. And I want to give you a model of a therapist that thinks in the way that I do so that you can be inspired to maybe find a therapist like me if that sort of talk seems, like it might be useful to you. Also, become a patron of the podcast, as always. Also, subscribe, hit the bell below. From what I understand, that's a good thing on YouTube, to subscribe and hit the bell because you'll get notified, I think. Also, comment below because you want to be a part of the conversation. And let's continue. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, in which I follow the show 90 Day Fiancé, and we follow Darcy's story. And tune in next time so we can check in again with Darcy's story and see if I have anything of interest to say. And also, please take care of yourself, really, because you deserve it. You really, really do.